we're gonna use some Dave Ramsey stuff, and I got a fun one for you, Lace, coming up. Oh, I'm really excited. You were gonna. I found.
Am I gonna get a ringside commentary on this one?
Well, we could do that. Yeah, we could do that on the next one.
I don't even know what it is, so I'm not even sure what I'm signing myself up for here.
Nah, I don't know either. But no, I found the man of your dreams. I'll show you at the end of this clip. At the end of this video. Anyway,
I'm
so
scared of the idea of you setting me up. I don't even know.
he's a nice guy. Anyway, so
Nothing good ever comes from somebody telling you he's a nice guy. And the first thing somebody says is he's a nice guy. He probably lives in his grandmother's basement.
Oh no,
he probably needs someone to paper bag over his head when he leaves. I don't know.
This guy's probably got multiple houses. Anyway, we're gonna start with a clip with Ken Coleman. I guess their new person, Jade Warshaw, something like that. But just to give you kind of a hint, so income inequality in America has gotten to the point where it's worse than it has ever. I mean, we're worse than most other developed countries. I keep freezing. That was weird. But yeah, we're worse than most other developed countries, and it's the worst it's been in this country since, worse than it was in the 1920s, which isn't ominous at all because, as we all know, the 1920s was the party that never ended. Remember the 1930s? Just more 20s.
No, nobody remembers the 1930s because they were sleeping off the hangover from the 1920s.
It was a rough hangover.
It was a rough decade of party, a rough decade of
hangover. Yep. So his first video, it's Ken Coleman and Jay Warsaw, and they're to talk to a kid about this, and this is kind of, we're talking about income inequality also leads to things like people's inability to get jobs, education, stuff like that. They're talking to a kid that's asking them if he should drop out of high school so he can start working. So you know what? I'm going to do this. Since you were so excited, this will be our cage match. Bum, bum, bum. All right, so with ringside vocabulary. So the kid's going to ask Ken and Jade, should he drop out of high school? We got to try and predict.
It scares me that this is what you picked, because if you picked it, they probably said...
Aiden is on the...
Huh?
I said it scares me that you picked this, because if you picked this, then I feel like the setup is they could have said something real weird.
Oh, yeah.
All right, here we go.
In Charlotte, North Carolina. Aiden, how can we help?
Yes, thank you. So I'll give you a little backstory. First of all, thank you so much for what you guys have done. You've changed my family tree.
Wow.
Back in the day, my dad started at FPU, I think, 12 years ago, and now they're doing amazing. I am currently 16 years old, and so still in school, obviously. And my question is, I have a job opportunity that I could go take next week if I wanted to, and didn't know if it's better to just simply drop out of school, start working, get these next few years in early, and then later on get my GED and go from there.
What's the job?
It is, so it's a stone manufacturing company, so like the fake stone that you see on walls and stuff. It's not really fake, it's concrete that's kind of painted, I guess.
Yeah.
And they create those stones.
Is that a job that puts you on a ladder to climb?
So real quick, so he's 16, 17. Should I drop out of high school to take this job making, I guess, the stone stuff, fake stone, whatever it is? What do you think, Lace? What do you think they're going to say? What do you think the move is here? What's Ken going to do?
I'm totally terrified. Okay. Well, I think you tell the kid to at least make it through high school. I think that's what you do.
I would, yeah.
I'm not sure if he's going to really tell his kid to drop out, per se, but I feel like he's going to at least be going around the bend and asking a bunch of, like, what kinds of careers are you looking to do in the future sort of position? Like,
Right.
if he decides he wants to, like, really go into masonry or something, then, could be this whole maybe higher education is not important sort of something. Although, I don't think we're going to hear Ken literally tell this kid to drop out of school.
Probably not. All right, so let's go in and let's let him finish here real quick. Come on, Ken.
To where you ultimately want to be. My goodness, you're only 16, and I love that you're thinking about this, but where does this put you long term if you were to go now or 2 years from now?
So it would give me just a head start. That is what I'm looking at it from. And yes, I could climb, and there's definitely opportunities for raises and bonuses.
No, I'm not asking about financial. I know, I can hear you, man. You are a 16-year-old kid who's got dollar signs rolling around in your head. Your dad and mom did a great job by teaching you about money. I get that. I'm not talking about financial. Because it's indisputable that if a 16-year-old starts working now, you're ahead of every other 16-year-old. I get it.
I think his dad and mom suck. Because if this was my kid, should I drop out of high school and take this job? I'd be like, if you want to live outside of my house, yeah.
I mean, seriously,
yeah, no.
That's exactly what would have been said to me.
No, it's, what was I? Not a great movie, but the last Indiana Jones in the Crystal Skull. And he finds out that he has a son with Marion. And he spent the whole movie hanging out with the kid, and the kid's telling him about how he dropped out of college because he wanted to get a head start in life and do more stuff. And Indiana's been spending the whole movie going, yeah, that's a good idea, and blah, blah, blah. And, you're your own man, go your own way. And then when Marion finally tells him, well, he's your son, the first thing Indiana says to him, you let him drop out of college? It's like, you freaking idiot, why would you let him do that?
I'm saying, does going in this job at a stone manufacturer, is that your dream? Is that where you want to be?
So, not officially, but it would get me closer to where I want to be eventually.
Which is what?
I want to get into business ownership and real estate.
No. Okay, so, first of all, Aiden, I love you, man. But, and I'm the guy. If there was anybody that ever would say it's okay to drop out of high school, I'm the guy.
Well, I'm the girl.
Oh, they're doing it. So, you called it. They didn't tell him to drop out of high school, but they're endorsing it.
But they didn't exactly say not to. I was so scared that they might do that, and I really wanted to lose this one. I wanted this one not to be a win for me.
Well, and here's the thing. So we don't have to watch the rest of this because he's gonna go into, well, if this was, because the kid wants to do something in real estate, and so he's like, well, if it was a real estate kind of gig, then maybe it might make sense. But since it's not going to further your career necessarily, right? And then he goes to this thing about, but yeah, dropping out of high school, going to work is a big thing. He does qualify that getting your GED. There's a stigma to a GED. Which I think is a weird way to put it too, because it's a well-earned stigma, right? Because the whole point, this is what they're missing, and I think a lot of people miss, is when you're an employer, like I've employed people, right? The whole point is you got to have at least gone to high school. Otherwise, I'm not going to consider it. If you got your GED, that's good, but you better show me an associate's also with your GED. Because part of what high school is not so much, it is sort of the education, but that's not the most important part to me. The most important part to me is, can you work and socialize with other people? Which is a lot of what you learn in school, right? Because if I hire you and you're just a weird guy that puts everybody on edge, right? Or you're just abnormal, or you do a lot of social faux pas that could get people in trouble or get us in trouble as a temp. I don't want you around. I don't know. I mean, you're a live wire, right? As opposed to, well, I did go to high school. It's like, it doesn't matter what your role was in high school. You could have been the biggest nerd or the biggest jock. I don't really care. I just care that you stuck it out. Because then I know you at least can stick it out here at my business, right? You're not going to fuck things up. Right? Socially, at least, right? I don't want people complaining because you said something awkward and it got misconstrued as sexual harassment kind of shit, right? that's part of the whole thing about going to college is it was like, well, we get a degree in like underwater basket weaving. A lot of times, unless you have a specific sort of career, a lot of times employers, they don't care what your major was. When I got out of college, nobody asked me what my bachelor's degree is in. Nobody ever asked.
No.
They just asked if you have it.
I guess mine has mattered slightly.
Well,
one of my jobs, was going into education, and so going into education, and I do not teach lower grades. If you teach upper grades, you have to be. Your bachelor's degree needs to have somehow, pertained to the subject area. So there's a little of that in my scenario. But things that I did prior to going into education after college, people didn't ask me about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the only time I ever got asked about my bachelor's was when I applied to grad school. And it was funny because they were like, what is liberal science? We don't know what that is. They'd never heard of it. It was like, well, it's sort of a made up degree. It just means I spent a lot of time doing political science and philosophy. That's really all it means. I just spent a shit ton of time reading and writing essays. That's all it means. So yeah. But then, anyways, that's kind of a weird thing. I think they misunderstand the value. And so how does this affect income inequality is that you get a lot of people that don't, like I have from here with the dropouts. So kids who drop out, how many go back and get their GED? 30% of white kids do, 20% of black kids, and 10% of Latinos. So income inequality
all across the board is pretty low.
It's very low, yeah. But income inequality is that whole thing that we talked about, and then we'll get into this too in a second on the next video, is you get a lot of these people that just have given up. They're not working, but a lot of them have high school only or less than high school, and they can't get ahead. So income inequality gets deepened by the fact that you don't have the education to put yourself in a position to get a job that actually makes decent money. And that's going to continue to be the trend as jobs more and more depend on things like computers, machines. You can't just walk in and it's not like pick up a shovel or pick up an axe and go to work, right? They're going to require more and more technical skills going forward. That's just the reality of it. And so this idea that we encourage you to drop out of high school if it's your career path, I'm not saying that's wrong or bad, and I'm not getting on people who do that, but it's like, just realize the risk is you have now narrowed your career path to this one thing. And if it doesn't work out, you got to go back to the beginning and start over again. As opposed to you could get an education and you're more versatile.
Jump in there on that. So there is somebody in my family that was their experience. This is somebody in an older generation in my family, but it still is sort of what happened to them. They did not complete high school, and they did get a pretty good job that they moved up in, and they had a good salary with good benefits, etc. But when things started changing within that company and they became unhappy, now they were not on the chopping block, nor were they ever going to be on the chopping block, honestly. But when they became unhappy with the direction that company was going and were kind of poking around, seeing what else might be out there for them, they realized that they were stuck unless they could afford to suddenly be making minimum wage or something again, because they didn't have qualifications doing anything else.
Yeah, well, I think that's a phenomenal point too. Is it essentially it makes you a slave to your employer because you have no versatility. Where are you going to go?
Right.
So you're basically at that point you're a serf. You're stuck in a job that you might hate in 5 years, but where are you going to go? If you've got kids or something at that point, you've got bills. Unless you can afford to, like you said, go to a minimum wage or go back to school. And that's really hard. for anybody who's ever done it, like going to grad school, that first semester was brutal because I had to go back and remember, okay, yeah, you got to schedule for all this and do all this studying and right. And it's hard to get back into that flow. And if you've never really built that flow up because you dropped out of high school, you never really learned how to get into that pattern in the first place, which is the whole point. Then doing it for the first time, no wonder only 30% of white people, 20% of black, and 10% of Latino. But that also tells you something about income inequality and systemic racism in this country. Poor people tend to be black and Latino, and they're less likely to go back and get their GED. So I think that the whole thing, I mean, I'm going to give you this one. This was a win. I'm going to give this is a Lacey win. I didn't really do anything.
Yes. We usually share wins because we usually, are somehow sharing these wins, but this one was just a direct.
This was just all you.